Good morning. We have a great opportunity ahead of us. In just 11 weeks, the stage is ours at the mother of all music festivals, the BBC Proms at the Royal Albert Hall, to give a performance of Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture, but in a way that has never been seen or heard before. The orchestra will play entirely on instruments made by you from scrap materials. That's the only rule. You can only use the kinds of objects you find in a place like this. Stuff that has been cast out, disposed of, or at the very least, passed on. That is the challenge. So I must be very clear with you when I say I ain't going to walk out on stage at the Albert Hall to an orchestra that can only wheeze and moan and burp at me. I need an orchestra that can make genuinely brilliant music. So the audience will go, whoa, how could it be possible that this orchestra playing these bits of rubbish could sound so good? I wish you good luck.
Over the next few weeks, the makers will have to take their instruments through quantum leaps. I'm hoping that by going back to basics and building instruments afresh, we'll gain a greater understanding and appreciation of how they work.
A big elastic band to tighten the head onto the drum. Looking at the cement mixer for possibly a timpani.
Looking for anything that could conceivably become part of a musical instrument.
We could call that a 36-inch bass drum. And I can nearly lift it off the ground. Tubular Bells.
With most of the instrument makers now well underway, Paul Jefferies, our percussion maker, is still on the hunt for scrap to make 3 timpani or kettle drums.
I've spotted a river boy floating, drifting in the channel on the Medway here. Percussion ensemble is beginning to look good.
As work continues across the orchestra, the instrument makers are embracing my scrap heap challenge. At his workshop on the Kent coast, percussion maker Paul Jefferies is hollowing out a truck wheel for his giant bass drum. This could well be my favourite instrument so far.
It looks pretty solid. I think it might sound quite good.
And with his drum still a work in progress, Paul has finished the first of his 14 instruments, a triangle, made from a digger drill bit suspended in the neck of a sink.
The porcelain is providing an acoustic chamber. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's just over 6 weeks until I'm hoping to lead the Scrapheap Orchestra onto the Albert Hall stage.
Today is an incredibly important day. You could say it's the first real crunch day in the project. I mean, I've heard certainly the instruments in kind of prototype form in isolation, but I haven't heard them all playing together. And after all, we're not here to make a bunch of solo instruments, we're here to make an ensemble. Will they work together? It's frankly very exciting and also hugely terrifying, because this is the moment where we find out really, genuinely, does the project have legs?
First to arrive, Daniel with an oboe and bassoons. Ben's finished his bathtub bass, as well as a cello made from a fuel tank. Next, the bow makers, Andrew and Pete, with a selection of bows for the players to try. And Andy's completed a second watering can and lampshade trumpet. Lastly, and frankly quite unimpressively at this point, Paul arrives with only a triangle and a tambourine for the percussion section.
That's all I've done.
When commissioned to write the 1812, Tchaikovsky told his patron, "It's going to be very loud and noisy." And he was true to his word, thanks largely to his use of percussion. Percussion instruments have become a more and more important part of the orchestra. These days, a percussion section includes an astonishing array of everything from glockenspiels to anvils. Back in Tchaikovsky's time, the standard percussion section would include a bass drum, some timpani, a snare drum, crash cymbals, triangle and tambourine at the very least. Percussion maker Paul Jefferies, who frankly had little to show for himself at that rehearsal, is still searching for the right scrap material to make the orchestra's cymbals.
Breaking the sound of the cymbals down into 3 constituent elements. The crash, the sizzle, and the bell sound afterwards. What I'm looking at today is the crash. So I'm wanting to crash something together. And it's an experiment. I'm thinking maybe 2 big sheets of metal, so essentially 2 car bonnets. That sounded pretty impressive for a clash cymbal.
Back at Paul's waterfront workshop, there's a semblance at last of what might just be the first of 2 scrap cymbals.
These are the clash cymbals. I was looking for something to suspend the car bonnet on, and in my landlady's garage at home was her old bed. She would be delighted to see it at the Albert Hall, and it works. It works really well. This is the beater, the main beater, and it will be attached to these bicycle forks, and it'll have a big handle coming out. So the idea is that the player will get the handle and go crash.
Paul has finished his 3 timpani or kettle drums. Generally a skin of animal or plastic stretched over a copper bowl, our scrap versions consist of a river buoy, a cement mixer and a hot water tank, all topped with old sails.
Principal percussionist of the BBC Concert Orchestra is coming today to try for the first time some of the instruments that I've made. I'm just finishing off snare drum, so I'm quite nervous. I really hope this works.
Hey!
Hello.
Hi, Paul, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Great, thanks, great. And here we are, look at this. Wow. Thank you. Right, let's have a listen.
Each timp is actually tuned to a musical note, and the shape of the bowl contributes to the tone quality of the drum.
I love the look. It's just going to want more resonance, more power. I have to say, I've played worse. No, but I mean, in terms of what we're going to need in the Albert Hall, we're going to need somehow a bit more resonance. So what else have you got for me?
Snare drum.
Ah, it's a Burko!
It's a Burko.
I like the fact that it says hot
absolutely.
there. No, I like that. Let's see what it sounds like. Wow. Those first couple of notes I played out, they were really exciting because so much snare coming off. The thing I was disappointed with were the timpani, other than the look. They look great. I was so excited to see them. It was so disappointing when actually there was a thud, albeit a nice thud, but a thud with none of the resonance that we associate with the timbs.
Just 2 weeks from now, I hope to be walking onto the Albert Hall stage with my Scrapheap Orchestra. Today we discover whether instruments made from non-traditional material really can blend to create a harmonious sound. Are they fit for purpose?
Today is so scary because it's the whole orchestra. It's all 44 instrumentalists, some of them meeting their instruments for the very first time. And if we've got 44 people mutinying today saying, I can't play that anymore, you know, we're stuffed.
The timpani sounded really good. I think all the drums sounded really good, actually. I was really pleased. The players turned round to me after the first run through and just said 1-0 to the percussion, and it kind of summed it up.
The climax of the 1812 famously features a volley of precisely timed explosions.
See, that made a bang, but the problem with that bang is that there's a lot of acoustic resonance.
Tchaikovsky scored it for live cannons, but had to abandon his plan because it couldn't be done safely with the artillery of the day. Paul's experimenting with a thoroughly modern solution. Balloons. What else?
Pretty good. That was better. Henry Hoover's the best.
Determined to fire up the Proms audience, Paul's making one last-ditch cannon attempt.
This is the activator. This is the exhaust off a double-decker bus. Inside we have hole punch, which is going to flutter down through the Albert Hall.
This time the tire tube is inside an old gas cylinder.
It's failed. No one likes to fail. I'm not going to cry. Yet.
The big day has arrived. Crunch time. In a few hours, almost 6,000 people will pile into the Albert Hall for a performance unlike any of us has seen before.
I think the Scrapheap Orchestra gives us a great opportunity to just really think again about how sound is made, why it's made, and how it works. The audience will see these motley instruments making their way onto the stage and think, what on earth is this? And surely it will sound rubbish. It's going to pack a punch, you know. I mean, people will go, what is that?
But as we've discovered over the past 11 weeks, where scrap instruments are concerned, drama is never far away. This one involves Paul's bass drum beaters.
Paul, can I have a chat to you? When I first kind of hit you today, I mean, I thought these sounded great, but proms have a problem with this. It's a family prom, and they've just got these visions of a teddy bear at the end of a stick being whacked down really hard in front of the kids, and the proms really aren't happy about this.
You are having a laugh. Excellent.
I'm not.
That's amazing.
No, I'm not having a laugh.
That is really
we can't do this, I'm afraid. We're going to have to change these.
What, because children don't throw teddy bears?
Well, this is what they're saying. Can these be adjusted so they don't look like teddy bears? Well, because that, to me, looks like a bass drum beater.
So, Teddy Bear Gate, the solution that they have suggested is mutilating the teddy bears off of your legs. Cutting up the bears, making me sad, never mind upsetting little children. Off with his ears. I think we can get away with that.
As the audience starts to file in, it's the last chance for the musicians to make sure they and their instruments are match fit. But with minutes to go before the auditorium doors open, Paul's got yet another problem, this time with his cannons, now powered by fire extinguishers.
Pressing it, and as you can see, there's nothing coming out. The cannons run out of fuel, so I have to change the extinguisher inside. It's about 5 minutes now. Here it is. I think we need to just have a little check. Put that like that. Done. Fixed. Mission accomplished.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just about to open the house, just to let you know.
11 weeks ago, I challenged some of the country's top instrument makers to build an orchestra for the modern age entirely out of scrap. At times, I wondered if we could pull it off. But these master craftsmen have more than risen to the occasion. Now it's down to me to lead the musicians through that great showstopper, Tchaikovsky's Ode to Victory, the 1812. This is an experiment that's never been attempted anywhere before, let alone in one of the world's greatest concert halls. Well, here we are on the stage at the Royal Albert Hall, at the BBC Proms, no less, with an entire orchestra of instruments made entirely from scraps. Here it is on stage, and it's about to make, I hope, beautiful poetry. Right, let me talk you through some of the materials that have been garnered to musical use. The violin and the viola section, Cynthia's violin here, for instance, is made out of a piece of toilet waste pipe, ladies and gentlemen. It has been cleaned. And the bow, that bow started out life as an arrow. Moving on to the brass, noteworthy perhaps the trombones. A lot of plumbing material involved in the trombones. You're perhaps not surprised to hear that. Look at that tuba, ladies and gentlemen. You'll no doubt be happy to know that that's made almost entirely from ventilation duct from a local burger joint. So now to the resourcefulness part. Well, obviously that falls to the extraordinary band of instrument makers that we've had the great privilege to work with on this project. I salute them for their extraordinary resourcefulness. Ladies and gentlemen, the makers, they're all up in that box there. And can I just say to you that if you hear any kind of strange, sort of slightly tuneless moments in this piece, I can assure you it is not operator error. We had big problems along the way with particularly the violins and the violas, well, and the cellos actually. Their sound, it just simply wasn't good enough. It was thin, it was weedy, it was nasal, it was metallic, it was just wrong. Come the performance, of course those instruments had been modified and had been got as good as they possibly could be in the circumstances, plus the fact you've got these fantastic orchestral musicians who, when the light goes on, as it were, when it is the moment of delivery, point of sale, performance, they will give so much more. I'm going to sound a bit like an old hippie now, but I could feel the love. I really could feel the love.
It was really exciting. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know how many people would be in the hall, and it was pretty packed out. It's really nice to see the orchestra get into the stride. Absolutely unbelievable experience.
In the 11 weeks, we've gone from scrap materials to a symphony orchestra sound. I'm immensely proud to be part of that. Every single instrument has improved 100%. When that oboe solo came in, I was welling up.
I expected bother in the flute department, really. Sounds like, you know, the flute played well. She just made the damn thing perform, really.
There's been quite a few dark moments. One of the violinists gave me back a violin and said, "Oh, thanks very much. I wish I could say it was a pleasure."
The Scrapheap Orchestra has given an opportunity, to let rip on the creative side. I think I have learnt a lot about my craft. I assumed that I was pretty good at looking for sounds, tinkering with sounds, but not inventing sounds.
It has been a learning curve, which made me realise how important some of the bits are on our trombones, because we've never put on a heap of junk on the end as a bell.
Humble bowmaker who really appreciates the quality of the things I'm working on, and perhaps also why the players treasure them so much.
I heard these crash. It was like, that's a bloody pair of clash cymbals. But it's not, it's a bonnet and a bed. Everything on that stage was just perfect for me.
From those dark beginnings on a scrapyard near Peterborough to this, and to that response. I've been coming to proms for years, and I really haven't seen an audience at the proms go thump like that.